The world today feels like a ticking time bomb. Tensions rising, conflicts brewing, and political rhetoric on the brink of eruption. It's impossible to ignore the ominous winds of war that seem to be sweeping across the globe. And the question on everyone's mind is, how close are we to World War III? On February 24th, 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine thrust the idea of a global conflict into our living rooms and onto our phones. The fear and uncertainty it generated can still be felt today, as discussions about the potential for a third world war are not only happening behind closed doors, but are becoming a global conversation. It's not just a topic for political elites or world leaders. Ordinary people, everyday citizens, are discussing the specter of war in WhatsApp groups, on social media, and even in casual conversations. This sudden shift in the conversation is reflected clearly in the most unlikely of places, Google Trends. A spike in searches, starting on the very week of Russia's invasion, marks the moment when the world collectively began wondering if we were on the brink of something much larger, much more catastrophic. But what does it all mean? Why is this fear, this gnawing, palpable sense of impending doom, taking root across so many corners of the earth? Why does it feel like there is a collective awareness that something huge is about to happen, yet we can't quite grasp it, can't quite articulate it? Let's face it, the world isn't the same as it was even a decade ago. While the global landscape is indeed more interconnected, it is also more fragile, more volatile. From the unstable political dynamics in Ukraine to the growing rivalry between superpowers like the US and China, one thing is clear: the fuse has been lit. And what's worse, this isn't a new phenomenon. The entire 21st century seems to be awash in war, conflict, and strife. There are more than 110 active armed conflicts in the world today. Yes, you heard that right. 110. It's a staggering number, more than at any point in modern history, perhaps even rivaling the dark days of the 20th century. It's appalling, isn't it? How in a time when we've made incredible strides in technology, medicine, and human rights, the very idea of war still lurks as a possibility. This shouldn't even be something we have to talk about in the 21st century, right? Yet here we are, constantly bombarded with news cycles of escalation and the haunting question of whether we're standing on the edge of the abyss. The very idea that humanity has not yet grown beyond the need for war is nothing short of disturbing. We ask ourselves, how have we not evolved enough to be repelled by the very concept of war? The cost of war isn't just measured in bodies. It's measured in the destruction of minds, hearts, and nations. Whole societies are shattered, and even those who survive find their psyches forever altered. The cycle continues. It is hard to understand, isn't it, that in the age of information, innovation, and enlightenment, we still cannot seem to break free from the violence that plagued our past. But don't take my word for it. Just look at the numbers. The wars in Ukraine, Syria, and Afghanistan. These are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a global disorder that has deepened over decades. Now, let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves, could World War III really happen? The answer, unfortunately, is much more complex than a simple yes or no. The dominoes are set. The harsh truth is that wars don't just happen. They're made slowly, deliberately, with a series of small events that stack up over time, each one nudging the world closer to the precipice. And today, the hands of several key players are shaking that table, pushing us closer to the edge. Look at China eyeing Taiwan. The Chinese government's expansionist ambitions continue to grow, and Taiwan remains a critical flashpoint in US-China relations. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine remain locked in a bitter, full-scale war with no clear end in sight. The US and NATO, historically powerful entities, are continuing their military posturing, while tensions in the Middle East between Israel and Iran seem to grow with every passing day. Add to that the growing unrest in Gaza, and you have a perfect storm of geopolitical instability. It wouldn't take much for a single spark to set off the kind of global war we fear. A misfire, a poorly chosen word, a moment of miscommunication. These are the ingredients for disaster, as we've seen in history time and time again. Remember the Mukden incident of 1931? A simple misunderstanding between Chinese and Japanese diplomats led to the invasion of Manchuria, which snowballed into full-scale war. Or how about the Potsdam Declaration of 1945? A mistranslation of a single word by Japan's prime minister led to the conviction that Japan had rejected the Allies' surrender terms, setting off the chain of events that would end in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even in the modern era, miscommunication continues to be a threat. Take the Sino-Indian War of 1962, where ambiguous diplomatic exchanges over border disputes escalated into full-scale fighting. We may be far more technologically advanced today, but the risk of human error, the failure to communicate properly, still looms large. The economy of war, a business of death. When we think about war, we tend to focus on the political and military aspects. But there's an insidious force driving wars forward: money. Yes, war is as much about business as it is about power. Weapons manufacturers, military contractors, and even oil companies all thrive when the world is in chaos. And let's not forget the role of economics. When countries are struggling, desperate for stability, leaders often look for a way to rally their people. War, they believe, can serve as the ultimate distraction, a way to unite a nation against a common enemy. But the reality is more grim. Wars destroy economies. They disrupt supply chains. They force governments to print money, leading to inflation. War doesn't solve problems, it exacerbates them. And we are already seeing the early signs of economic instability today. Inflation is surging. Governments are already printing money, flooding the market with more currency. It's not a stretch to say that the foundation for global conflict is already being built by the very people we entrust with our economic stability. Can we prevent it? The most pressing question of all is, would modern societies actually go to war? In the past, large-scale wars were largely carried out by people with little access to information. Today, soldiers have smartphones. They can watch the horrors of war unfold in real time. They question their orders. They see the devastation. Would they still march to the front lines if called upon? It's a different world than it was in 1914 when Europe stumbled into World War I. People today are more connected than ever before. They are more skeptical, more informed, and more unwilling to march to their death for reasons they don't understand. But here's the hard truth. Even in the modern age, even in the age of technology, connectivity, and information, the risk of war still exists. And sometimes, it's not just the politicians who can stop it. It's us, the people. The question remains, what will we do if the dominoes start falling? How close are we really? The short answer, closer than we think. But history is full of surprises, and there are countless moments when heroes, sometimes unlikely ones, have stepped forward to prevent disaster. Could that happen again? Maybe. Could World War III break out tomorrow? It's certainly possible. But one thing is for sure. If it happens, it won't look like anything we've seen before. At the end of the day, we may not be able to prevent war. We may not be able to stop the cycle of conflict that has plagued humanity for centuries. But we can understand it. We can watch the signs. We can prepare. And most importantly, we can keep hope alive. Hope that this time, reason will win. Hope that, even in the darkest times, humanity will rise above the madness. Because if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that war may come, but so too will the will to stop it.